Hey there, Alex here. This is number 5. Welcome to Sweet Spot Soul, talking about twin flames. Please go back to the first ones. I hope I numbered this one right. It might be number 6, but nonetheless, they'll be in sequence and they build a bit on each other. So go ahead and go back a little bit if you want. But what I want to just share here right now is basically, one of the big things that I was learning and studying before my own initiation into the journey was around actually my favorite book, which I don't have here. And it's probably one of the best books. I'll be doing a lot of teaching out of it, actually. It's called A Course of Love. It's actually it's the second level after, it's the second book that comes after ACIM, which is A Course in Miracles. And so as a student of the course and having gone through that, myself and been living the course for some time, I started with A Course of Love. And interestingly, I'd gotten through the first few chapters and then I met my twin and I stopped reading it, got lost in everything. And then when I returned to it, it was just fascinating that where I had stopped, this is what I want to talk about here today. Of course, I started the whole thing again, but where I stopped was exactly probably why, and ironically, why my soul brought my twin in right then and there, because it was the issue. So what it was specialness. Okay, specialness. And I had actually, when I first met my twin, I had said to him, I said, there's nothing more important to me than reaching unconditional love. And like, that was my goal. It was already my goal. It was from previous awakenings and so on. I was, after reading Hawkins books, David R. Hawkins books, Power versus Force, Letting Go, all of them, all about the scale of consciousness, multiple times. I was on this journey already of coming into unconditional love. That was my goal in this lifetime. And I was so clear about it. So, and I had gone through a divorce and I was in total acceptance after that. And really, really, and I had even had my frequencies read by by this couple. I might actually talk with them and maybe I can put them on a link or something. Anyways, I'd had my frequencies read and I had gone up quite a bit in my life. And I was at that point, I was at 350, which was acceptance. And I really felt the peace at acceptance. It was just a really beautiful space to be in. And so even with my my ex-husband at that point, beautiful acceptance, beautiful, loving, continued like friendship relationship, but not together. And I was on this journey. I was just like, I was celibate and I'm just like, I just really want to get to unconditional love. And then I met my twin and whew, it was so intense in the first, I think it was 6 weeks before I felt the shift start, 5 weeks before, and then the shift began. The polarization, the energy was just building so big. And yeah, the wall was forming. And what happened was I remember feeling internally that I started to become attached to him. And I was like, oh my God, I was already in non-attachment. Like, I can't be in attachment. This is not okay. And I knew it and I could feel it. And I could feel him pulling and I could feel me turning the other way and polarizing. And it was intense how conscious I was of what was happening. But I was like, oh, no, 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 no. And I wanted to hang on. I could feel myself immediately going into the push energy. And I could feel him pulling and he couldn't explain it. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I see what I'm doing wrong. And I was putting him on a pedestal. I remember just being like I literally would like look up to him. And I remember how much I could see of myself in him. But then what I realized was all of these things that I wasn't being in my life, he was showing me all of that. And it was like so amazing. And it was incredible. And I recognized that these were all the things I denied about myself. And that I had a ton of stuff in me that I needed to clear out. I mean, I had tons of worthiness issues and self like abandonment issue, like so much stuff. And they were all of a sudden starting to kick up. I could feel them kicking up. And I'm like, no, no, no. Anyway, so that was crazy time. And then when we split, and everything just started going nuts. And then I picked up the book again. It was like, there was that specialness. I made him special. I made him separate. And while I was on the way to unity, and I was, like I said, I even told him so many times, oh my gosh, there's nothing more important than unity. This is going to have to be a different type of relationship. I don't want the push. I don't want the horizontal. I used to say this. I don't want a horizontal relationship of taking and all this, expectations and stuff. I was so clear on that. And yet I had so much I needed to look at inside of me. And as a coach and healer and all the things, I wasn't doing all that healing work at that point yet, but I was like so fixated on helping everybody else because it was really easy to do that. And I didn't ever have to go super deep in within. And so I had attracted narcissists in my life. I had all kinds of things like that. So I always felt like, oh, heartbreak was just a constant in my life prior. And I didn't really understand why, but then I recognized that I had so much within me that I would even sabotage relationships. And it was just a mess. So here I see all this happening. I get to the specialness and I'm like, oh my God, I made him special. I made him separate. I made him separate. And in all reality, my soul made him separate from me to start the initiation. Literally, put him in a body, put me in another body in order for me to see, okay, it's time for you to focus on you now. Here's your journey back to love, loving yourself, loving your soul, unity with your soul. And so, bam, I started the book again and had to, lost everything, fell apart. Everything around me fell apart. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? Dark night, but just like perfect timing for me to have to figure it all out and start all over again and rebuild my life. And tons of the in and out, push, pull, our first separation was 3 months. And then it was, intense in and out for a while, for quite some time until I finally realized, again, him showing me my shadow, I realized I was devaluing myself in a lot of ways. And I finally said, okay, I can't do this. And I can't do this anymore. This looping it is killing me. It was just killing me. So then I went for a third time through the book, and the book just really, it made such a big difference. And then of course, doing the energy clearing and all that extra work really, really, really made a difference in terms of calming down that push energy and all that separation energy, and made a big difference. But I wanted to just share with you about the twin flame journey. God, we have to stop making even ourselves special because we're on this journey. It's impossible to explain to anybody who's not on it. They don't get it. It looks narcissistic and all of that. We'll talk about that another time. It's impossible, but there's nothing special about it. You're not a unique snowflake. We're all one. We're all a part of, extensions, different fractals of the all. And your twin, or your physical other person, isn't special either. They are you in another body. So if you see them as special, which is the hardest thing, to not see them as special, then they won't be, you're not in union. You're still in separation consciousness, and you won't be in union. And so that was the biggest paradox for me, was all I wanted was to be in union. And I thought, I guess maybe I'll have a partner someday and I'll find somebody who's whole and complete and all of that. And then I used to say that, I'm like, until I meet somebody else who's really, really got their shit together and is not in that, manipulative, taking, expectations and all that kind of stuff. I was done with that. I knew that for sure. I just kind of resigned to being celibate. I was like, yeah, whatever. Unless I meet somebody like that just like lights everything up. Well, again, met the twin, and then sure enough, no, we both went into our wounded. But the only way that I was going to reunite was going to be by alchemizing all of that distorted energy within me and coming into that inner union. And I had to learn how to love myself. And that was the hardest thing. My God, was I wounded. And that was part of how I kept myself separate. I'm so broken, so broken. And so, like, that was my identity. Nobody wants me. I'm rejected. I put all my I am power into my brokenness and separateness. And I just said, yeah, I'll just help everybody else. No problem. No big deal. I'm just not meant to have a partner, and, but I wanted to get to that unity. And there was just no way to bypass learning how to love myself. and having the drive to do so, to get out of the pain of meeting myself and then realizing how much I wasn't being myself and loving myself, just insane. It's insane. And ironically, the only way to be in that type of a relationship was to do the work, was to actually completely collapse the duality, not see the partner as, or the twin as, separate. And that's the only way to be in a partnership. So from the outside, everybody would say, well, sounds like that he's the one, the special, whatever. It's like, no, the one is the one soul. It is, the twin flame is you. So you're being with yourself. It's just the craziest thing ever, right? Anyways, so I wanted to share that about, just, we're not special, we're not special, we're not better than, this is just what your soul, where your soul is. More evolved perhaps, but that doesn't make you special. Just means you're further along the journey to being super positively polarized. And I don't mean that you're the positive. I just mean, in terms of this time of ascension, this window that we're in cosmically. And what you're doing is anchoring in all this unconditional love into this planet, into humanity, into the collective, which raises all the boats, right? It raises all the consciousness. So this work is very sacred and very important to do, and you're here for that reason. And again, you don't have to be with the twin, but to get to union is why you are on this journey, to get to inner union. So you have to really treat it that way if you want to get out of pain, and if you want to, step into that dharma and that mission of anchoring that in for the collective and helping others. So yeah, that's a little bit more about my story, and just understanding the importance of humility, and that, the more we look outside and try to make that twin everything and separate and special, you're just going to keep looping on the journey. So pull it back in. You're the special one, right? To you, your soul is what is sacred and special to focus on. Let's just call it that. And that is part of the all. The all is the special one. So, all right. Thanks so much for being with me here today, and I'll see you on the next video.